Hello, my wonderful, beautiful friends. Guys, welcome back to IDontWorkHereLady, where Karens seem to think that everyone on Earth is meant to serve them. And in today's episode, a woman thinks that OP's a garbage man and attacks him for not obeying her, guys, and it's a huge mistake on her part. I hope you enjoy the stories, don't shake your heads too hard, and as always, you can send or link your post to this email right here. Let's dive in. So I'm an American, and I married a Scottish guy. Some of his friends are upper-class English folks, including his friend Carl. So Carl's wedding came up, and my husband was invited, so we went. We had to go from Glasgow to London to attend the wedding, and then go back to fly to the States to visit my family. Now, Carl's family is quite upper class. The wedding was very posh. I didn't know how to dress, so I, from a lowly middle-class American family, wore a navy blue, 50s-style high-necked dress with white polka dots. My British husband told me it was spot on and looked great. Totally approved the outfit. At one point during the evening, I stepped outside to get some air. I lit a cigarette, and that's when an older woman turns to me and snapped, "Aren't you the staff? What are you doing?" There was nothing gracious about her tone when she asked me if I was a server. The woman then barks at me as if I was her own personal servant, caught using her private bubble bath or something. Had I been a server on break, it was clear that she was trying to humiliate me in front of as many people as possible for daring to take a break on her dime. I then blinked at her in confusion and said, "Oh, no, sorry, I'm a guest." Hearing me say that, she turns beet red and she tries to backtrack and says, "Oh, I thought you were one of those servers. Are you on the bride or the groom side?" I say to her, "Oh, I'm just a +1. My husband is good friends with the bride and groom." At this point, I had never felt more unwelcome at an event. I was uncomfortable enough being around so many strangers in the first place, but being publicly shamed was the cherry on top. She then calls over a man close to her and she starts babbling how she was the groom's mother and this is her husband, and how happy they were to have me there. How no guest was only a +1 because all guests were precious to her. She then asked if I needed anything, and I don't know where I got this snark from because it's not like me. But before I knew it, I said, "No, I'm fine. Can I get you something though, because you did think I was a server?" I can't believe that flew out of my mouth. The woman turns even redder and she spluttered even more. I then turned away, ground out my cigarettes, and then went back inside. I told my husband, who then told the bride, who rolled her eyes and said, "I'm not surprised. She's such a C-word to waitstaff." I felt really self-conscious about that dress for a long time, as it's my best dress, and now I feel like it's peasant wear. But my husband says it's her, not me. Honestly, guys, I think OP could have worn anything that day, and she would have still gotten the same treatment from that woman. She didn't recognize you, so therefore she assumed you were staff. And seriously, some people are just horrible to staff for no reason. Like, even if OP was a member of staff, like, what's wrong with taking a smoke break outside? With that said though, I love that OP was quick enough to hit her with that zinger in the moment. I work at a hotel, and last week, we had a particularly high and mighty guest staying with us. He was a 60-something-year-old man. The guy was very rich and basically thought that his ass was plated with gold, which we lower life forms born into servitude were just dying for the honor of kissing it. Sunday was a rare day that my husband and I both had off, and we wanted to spend it together doing something special. We went into town for lunch at one of our favorite places. It's a little ma-and-pop cafe, famous for their quiche, and was owned by a sweet, plump, elderly lady that now knows us by name. She sat us at our usual table, then got our drinks and took our order. Then, we sat back to relish in this quiet time, getting to just sit and relax together. Being young and broke, this doesn't happen very often. That's when I noticed, a few tables down, the rich man from my hotel. Cue the mental anguish, and the guy was making a motion at me. From here on out, let's just call him the old ass. Now, I thought he was kind of awkwardly trying to say hello, so I waved and tried to focus back on the conversation I was having with my husband. And that's when I hear him speak up and say, "Hey, you're the girl from the hotel." The guy actually raised his voice to get across this cafe, and I'm thinking, wow. Still foolishly thinking that this was his way of hello, I just nod and smiled, what probably had to have been the most pathetic pretend smile that I've ever done, and I waved again. And then this horrid human being raises his glass while maintaining eye contact with me, and he says, "Fetch me some water." And I wish this was a joke. Now I'm pretty sure I sneered at him after that. I just stared at him a little dumbfounded, looked around, and then replied, "I don't work here." To which he replies, "Yeah, but you're from my hotel where I'm staying at. I'm the guy with the comp rooms." At this point, I'm suppressing the urge to throw a salt shaker at this mother effer. But I say to him, "Yes, that means I do not work here." And his response is, "But your job is hospitality to your guests, right? Well, I need a refill. Now." At this point, I've officially lost my very last microscopic F, and I conceded to take any heat I may get later. I say to him, "Well, that's too bad. You should tell your waiter." And the guy responds, "But I'm telling you." I say to him, "I'm sorry, dude, but that's not my job." Getting a delightful shade of red in the face, he then says, "Can you just get me some more water?" Again, my answer is no. I don't work here and I'm not your servant. I'm here with my husband on my day off. Talk to one of the waitstaff. The guy then clears his throat, and he puts on his big boy angry voice, the type of voice that a father uses as he says, "Young lady." And he tells me, "I guess I'll have to have a conversation with your boss about your attitude." At which point, I could not suppress a laugh. I say to him, "Be my guest." The guy sputters a bit, and his buddy sitting with him turns around in his chair, giving me a "what the F is wrong with you" face. The old guy then says to me, "This is unacceptable. I'll make sure you lose your job at the hotel. I will make sure you never get a job again. I'll sue you for everything you've got." This situation is all too humorous at this point. I shrug, reciting exactly what I say to all those medical debt collectors. I say to him, "Look, man, I'm 23 years old, walking every single day to a minimum wage job. You can go ahead and try. You can't get water out of a dried up creek. So sue me." My husband then chimes in as he can see the old guy start to get out of his chair. My husband tells him, "Hey, you need to calm down." A waitress had witnessed the last part of the exchange and she grabs the owner. The little old woman then comes hobbling out of the kitchen and she pulls off her oven mitts and says, "Is there a problem, sir?" The old guy then says to her, "This girl has been nothing but rude and insulting to me and my companion during this otherwise pleasant lunch. I demand you ask them to leave your establishment, or I will have to take legal action. I'm a lawyer." I just look up at her shaking my head, and she responds with the sweetest little old lady voice. Now, I have a hard time believing that. This couple comes into my restaurant very often, and they're always a joy to have. At that, he huffed and puffed, his nose flaring and his lips drawn so tight that you probably could have strummed them, and he says, "Do you know who I am? You don't want to mess with me." And then this petite, sweet-voiced woman said the most amazing thing ever. She says to him, "I know you are on your way out of my cafe." He then flapped his mouth a bit, talking about all the things he's gonna do to put her out of business, to which she nods and sweetly says, "Yes, of course, dear. Now get out of my cafe," as she ushered him out the door. Once they were gone, she comes over and asked if we're okay. I let her in on the whole story of this guy, and she gave me a hug and then a free dessert. I worked the next morning, and I made sure to tell my boss what went down. My husband backed me up, and my boss kicked the guy and his entire group out of the hotel. The guy throws a fit, swearing to never come back, that he's gonna make sure every country club he knows will boycott our hotel's chain, and that he's never been treated so disrespectful in all of his life. Before leaving, he tells us that we're gonna pay for our incompetence, that we have no idea who we're dealing with. They were not happy. Yeah, I've said this before, guys. I've read a lot of entitled stories, and I'm always shocked when some people act like this. Like, how can anyone be so damn stupid as to think this is even remotely okay? And honestly, I'm hoping the guy wasn't really a lawyer, because that's some crazy BS he's pulling. Threatening to sue when you don't get what you want has gotta be the most childish move ever. I'm just glad that he and his entire party were kicked out due to his stupid, "I'm better and richer than everyone, so serve me" mentality. I worked at a seafood restaurant, so I wore a uniform that consisted of a lime green shirt and black pants that day. After I was done with my shift, I picked up my friend, and we decided to go to a local Italian fast food place to get some takeout. After ordering, my friend and I sit at a table and we pull out our phones, and that's when I hear someone yelling, "Hey." Now, I didn't think that was towards me, so I paid no attention to it. It only got louder until the sound was next to my ear. My friend and I finally look up and see this fuming lady whose head literally looks like it's about to explode. The lady says to us, "It's about damn time you paid attention. Why are you playing on your shift? I've been standing here for 5 minutes waiting to be served." Now, the Italian place's uniform was similar to the seafood place, so I thought maybe the lady mixed me up with the servers here. And I say to her, "Oh, sorry, I know we have similar uniforms, but as you can see," pointing at the seafood logo on my shirt, "I do not work here. Also, this isn't a fancy restaurant. If you want to get served, you have to go up to the ordering desk." The lady then just stares at me for a minute with this condescending look before dropping this bombshell. She says to me, "Well, you're a server, right?" I then nod, and she says, "Well, a server is a server, so go serve me now." My friend and I just stare at her while we tried to process what she said, not moving at all, while she got redder and redder. That's when our guardian angel, one of the servers from the place, scooches between her and our table and gives us our takeout. He gives us this wow look and then says a quick, "Have a good rest of your day," before turning to the lady and directing her to the ordering table. My friend and I take our takeout and we begin to book it out of there. We then hear the lady screaming, "Where the F do you think you're going? I told you to serve me." And I yelled back something along the lines of, "We're getting away from you." We then get into my car and we drove back to my friend's place. We had a great laugh afterwards. The lady herself actually popped into the seafood restaurant a few days later, and she approaches the ordering desk when I wasn't looking. I turned around and we both kind of stare at each other for a bit, her not knowing where she recognized me from. My manager just walks by and asked what's up. I told him it was the Italian restaurant lady, and he snorts a bit before walking away chuckling. The lady leaves shortly after without ordering anything. Again, guys, I don't know who these people think they are, but thinking that servers should always be on the clock, ready and willing to serve, no matter where they are, is absolutely ridiculous. So here's some backstory. I'm a high school senior at this magnet technical school, meaning it's filled with smart kids who don't want to try. I got a position as an intern at the school's IT department over the summer, and also for the last hour and a half of each school day. That counted as technical credits. So this happened on Thursday, and I thought it would fit here. I was doing my job installing new printer cartridges and color printers in classrooms in the 400s hall, commonly known as the science hallway, and I was having a chat with my chemistry teacher from last year. It's also important to note that I'm not dressed like teachers are supposed to be. The teacher's dress code meant no sweats, no tank tops, no jeans except on Fridays, and on this particular Thursday, I was wearing joggers and a flannel over a tank top. The only thing I had going for me in the category of looking like a teacher was my ID badge, and it's obviously different from teacher IDs, even on a first glance. I also have a radio clipped to my pants waistband. I do want to note that the only people who have radios are admins, department heads, and maintenance people, not teachers. So while I'm talking to my old chemistry teacher, an older lady, a Karen, walks past us. She didn't say anything at the time, but she clearly was giving us the side eye. I didn't think much of her since she was obviously a substitute teacher, as I didn't recognize her as the school staff. Again, I didn't think anything of it. I just finished my conversation and start to head back to the office. That's when I get a call over the radio from another intern, asking me to pick up a spare monitor from one of the storage rooms. Now, the door to the room was clearly labeled authorized personnel only, and needed a valid key card, not physical keys, to get in. My ID has clearance for this door, and regular teachers' ID cards will not let you inside. I'm about to let myself in, and then suddenly, here comes the substitute teacher, Karen, around the corner, spotting me with my phone in one hand and the ID in the other, and she comes storming over to me. She says to me, "What do you think you're doing?" I ask her, "What?" She says, "That door clearly says teachers aren't allowed. Why would you think that you can go into an off-limits room when you look like that?" Hearing her say that, I'm visibly confused and said, "Look, I don't know what your problem is. I'm just doing my job. Is there something I can help you with?" She says to me, "Well, you can start by not dressing like a gang member. What sort of influence are you being to impressionable children? You should be fired." I say to her, "I don't understand. I'm just trying to work. Nothing I'm wearing is against the dress code." She then says, "What do you think you're doing wearing sweatpants? What sort of teacher are you?" Me, finally understanding, say, "Oh, wait, I'm not a teacher, I'm actually an intern. We don't have a dress code other than the school dress code." She then screeches, "Don't you lie to me. Give me that walkie-talkie. I need to call the principal." To which I say, "Nope, I need this. Now please let me do my job. Teachers aren't allowed to use the radio unless it's an emergency." She then screams, "Give me that," as she grabs the radio out of my hand. She then hits the call button, screeching into the radio, "I need the principal, outside room so-and-so. There's a teacher trying to break into a room." Over the radio, my boss responds, confused, what's going on?" I manage to wrestle back the radio and call for my boss. I say to him, "Hey boss, can you come down to storage? I need a hand, really soon, please." At this point, the Karen throws my radio across the hallway, and because the intern radios are always the crappiest ones, the battery pops out. So I have no way of knowing if help is coming. Meanwhile, she's still screaming in my face. And that's when my old science teacher comes along, attracted by the yelling. He turns the corner, sees me trying to do my job, and this lady losing her mind in front of me. He immediately comes over and tries to see what's wrong. And because she's an actual employee, he goes to her first and asks, "What's going on here?" Karen says to him, "Well, this teacher is acting inappropriately in front of impressionable students. I think she's trying to break into and steal things from this room." My old teacher looks at me and says, "What are you trying to do?" I say to him, "Oh, thank goodness you're here. I'm just trying to get a spare monitor for my boss." He then looks at Karen and says, "Aren't you supposed to be in a class right now? OP's doing her job. She's an intern here. It's not like she's skipping class or anything." Hearing him say that, Karen suddenly gets calm and collected and tries to explain to him that I'm a disgrace of a teacher, which I'm not, and that I was a bad influence. My boss and intern friend now round the corner onto the scene, just in time to watch me get down on my hands and knees to put the radio back together, while Karen's trying to defend herself to my science teacher. My intern friend makes sure I'm okay, and then gets the monitor to actually finish the ticket we're working on. My boss helps me fix my radio, and he starts defending me to the Karen. I was a little shaken up, and I don't remember much about the following conversation, but the gist of it was that Karen was upset that I was exempt from the dress code rules for the teachers and employees, and that I had access to rooms that she didn't have. But then, a security guard comes around the corner. Apparently, Karen had left her class of freshmen to go to the washroom, and when a student had an emergency dismissal, the classroom was called, and they realized that she had left unattended students. That was not allowed, so the security guard went to the classroom to investigate. He found it teacherless, and he checked the security cameras. The result is Karen ends up getting fired, and my boss gave me some Jolly Ranchers and let me chill for the rest of the workday because I was pretty shaken up. Yeah guys, I'm glad to see that they let her go, because if she's that hard-headed and stupid, she really should not be teaching young, impressionable minds. And you really have to wonder, like, if she, being a substitute teacher, bosses around who she perceives to be a staff member, I can't imagine how she treats her students. This happened just last week, and for some background, it's deep winter in my town right now. The streets are covered in snow, and it's fairly miserable. About 3 days after our latest snowstorm and 2 missed trash pickups due to the horrible weather, a truck finally shows up, and the guys start clearing the mini mountains of garbage off our sidewalks. I look out the window, and I think, thank goodness. I'm heading out to warm up my car and to hit the road, and before I can even get outside, I hear honking. And it's not the beep beep, excuse me type of honking, but it's the lean on your horn, I've passed out dead kind of honking. I went outside, and it becomes pretty clear what the hubbub is about. The garbage truck is taking up a good lane and a half, as they do. And in the other lane, 2 cars are squared off, bumper to bumper against each other, with a line of cars behind each. The cars behind are honking like mad bats, while the car squaring off, one guy's got his arms crossed, staring at the opposing lady, who's screaming at him and gesticulating wildly with her hands. The garbage truck has seemingly been abandoned, it's just sitting there. The line behind the cars facing off are beginning to stretch down the road in both directions. Now, my car is a glorified piece of crap that I know will take 15 minutes to warm up. So I start her, stand back and enjoy a smoke and the morning's entertainment. While I'm at it, I take my garbage pail and I dump it into the back of the truck. I think you guys can see where this is going. When the crazy old bat squaring off with the other guy sees me doing this, she starts yelling at me. I can't hear a word she's saying, so I go back to my sidewalk and I light another smoke. Because I ain't going nowhere, so I might as well kill myself slowly with these cigarettes. That's when the crazy old bat flies out of her car and she rounds the back of the garbage truck, nearly killing herself because it's slippery. She then comes charging at me. The woman's about 3 feet away from me when we have the following exchange, and she's obviously crazy. The woman screams at me, "Move your effing truck, I have places to be." I say to her, sorry? I said move your effing truck. I'm late to work and you're blocking the entire block, you idiot. I respond, "I'm sorry, miss, but that's not my truck. I'm just waiting." She then interrupts me and says, "I just saw you tossing garbage in there, you lying sack of crap. Now move your effing truck." Now I start to smile because it's ridiculous what's happening to me. And she screams at me, "F you effing piece of crap. Don't you smirk at me." I tell her, "Miss, that's my house behind me. I'm just warming up my car, so please, back the F off, go back to your car like a good girl." And boy was she triggered. She actually takes a half-hearted swing at me. She misses me, but then she goes for another slap as I move my hand up to block. The woman is wearing woolen mittens, and the cherry of my cigarette gets stuck on her woolly hand, singeing it slightly. She then proceeds to fly into a rage, screaming that I owe her a new pair of gloves. I just move out of the way as she lunges at me. She misses me again and nearly falls into a snowbank. Up the street, I then hear a siren, and I'm thinking, thank goodness someone called the cops. But I can see, however, that it's not the cops. It's an ambulance and a fire truck. They can't get past the line of cars, so pretty soon, a small army of EMS guys are rushing up my street. They run past me and the lady across the street, and 10 minutes later, they're stretchering out the garbage guy. It turns out he had a stroke. The guy collapsed, and his buddy was by his side on the phone with EMS. The cops showed, and traffic starts moving again. And that's when Karen starts yelling at the cops how I assaulted her. I was pretty close to being taken into custody until 10 people walked up to the cops and told them the real stuff and how it went down. Karen was put into handcuffs and her car was towed. It was all pretty sweet, but a bit too much for me. I think it took me 3 days to process the whole thing. Yeah, I'd definitely say that was a wild morning for OP. Like, it's not every day where you get to witness and be a part of something crazy like that. With that said, I hope Karen learned her lesson though. Like, if she didn't rage on OP and started attacking him, she would have just been a little late. Instead, her whole day went down the toilet. And that, my friends, brings us to another end of our /IDontWorkHereLady. I hope you guys enjoyed the stories. I hope you didn't shake your heads too hard. And if you missed the last episode on the channel, it's in our /entitledpeople episode. So go check it out if you haven't, and myself and Stevie Boy will see you guys in the next one. We love you.